Hello there, welcome to part 11 of learning everything we can possibly learn in VisionOS Documentation. These videos are getting shorter. I hope this way we can access exactly the article that we want to see instead of creating this humongous video, which we need to parse. So let's not do that anymore. Let's just make it one video at a time. All right, this is part 11. We're going to learn to set up an access to ARKit data, and this checks whether your app can use ARKit and respects people's privacy. Let's look at the overview. In VisionOS, ARKit can enable new kinds of experiences that leverage data such as hand tracking and world sensing. The system gates access to this kind of sensitive information because people can decline your app's request to use ARKit data or revoke access later. You need to provide alternative ways to use your app and to handle cases where your app loses access to data. Add usage description for ARKit data access. People need to know why your app wants to access data from ARKit. Add the following keys to your app information property list to provide a user-facing usage description and explain how your app uses the data. First, you're gonna work on NS hand tracking usage description. Use this key if your app uses hand tracking data. NS world sensing usage description. Use this key if your app uses image tracking, plane detection, or scene reconstruction. Note, world tracking, unlike world sensing, doesn't require authorization. For more information, see tracking specific points in world space. Okay, let's take a look at that. Yes, earlier we were talking about the scene reconstruction example where we have several cubes that we can knock over in the real world. Here in the scene reconstruction example top file, we go to the info list here, and you can see that there's an NS world sensing usage description, which asks whether we can find a place to put virtual cubes, and NS hand tracking usage description, which we added to look to see if we can use our hands to interact with the cubes. Okay, choose between upfront or as needed authorization. You can choose when someone sees an authorization request to use ARKit data. If you need precise control over when the request appears, call the request authorization for method on the ARKit session to explicitly authorize access at the time you call it. Otherwise, people see an authorization request when you call the run method. This is an implicit authorization because the timing of the request depends entirely on when you start the session. Let's see how we do this in scene reconstruction example. Here in the code, we use the run option, as you can see here. Here we run the scene reconstruction and hand tracking for this model. Okay, open a space and run a session. To help protect people's privacy, ARKit data is available only when your app presents a full space and other apps are hidden. Present one of these space styles before calling the run method. The following steps show an app structure that sets up to use a space with ARKit. Here we create a ARKit session. Here we create a immersion style of mixed world window group content view, and we create an immersive space called app space with a mixed immersion view. And the task asks to do a plane detection provider. And if it is supported, we run the session and thereby update the data for state. Otherwise, there's a ARKit session error in this immersion style of this mixed full immersion. Next, we call open immersion space from the app user's interface to create a space. Start running an ARKit section and kick off an immersive experience. The following shows a simple view with a button that opens the space. Here, we've seen this code many times where we click a button and we create a task to open immersive space. called app space. Let's take a look at that in our code. And here in our code, scene reconstruction example, it's a little different. I looked up the scene ARKit session and pulled up the session. Next, we can see how the session, sorry about that, how we can see the session opens, authorizes changes and the status, and allows our model to create this scene, open this particular scene where we're able to touch the cubes. Here in our session, we open a cube mesh interaction ID, which is right here. This is the cube mesh interaction ID that we're opening up. And as you can see, we are running our session right here in this line of code, where we're allowing scene reconstruction and hand tracking. Provide alternatives for declined and revoked authorization. Someone might not want to give you access to the app from ARKit, or they might choose to revoke the access later in settings. Handle these situations gracefully and remove or transition content that depends on ARKit data. For example, you might fade out content that you need to remove or recenter content to an appropriate starting position. If your app uses ARKit data to place content in a person's surrounding, consider letting people place content using the system provided interface. Providing alternatives is especially important if you're using ARKit for user input. People using accessibility features, trackpads, keyboards, and other forms of input might need a way to use your app without ARKit. Yes, that's very important. I would love to see the code that allows us to do that. Of course, it's not available here. I think with that, we'll have to find ways to do that for ourselves or design our app before without ARKit first and then add ARKit to our app afterwards. I think this is for there's experimentation to be done. There is experimentation to be done here, and we'll learn to do that later. With that, we are done with the article setting up access to ARKit data, and we'll move on to the next piece in placing content on detected planes next.